Welcome to the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. I'm your host, Deb Maisner. I'm a registered nurse, health coach, and alcohol-free badass. I have found that there's more than one way to address drinking. If you've ever asked yourself if drinking is taking more than it's giving, or if you've found that you're drinking more than usual, you may have reached your own alcohol tipping point. The Alcohol Tipping Point is a podcast for you to find tips, tools, and thoughts to change your drinking. Whether you're ready to quit forever or a week, this is the place for you. You are not stuck and you can change. Let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. I want to take a sec to invite you to the next Alcoholiday. It's a monthly dry group where I help people practice not drinking. This is for you if you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you're broken, you're never going to get it. I want to just support you and arm you with lots of different tools to battle cravings, work on your thinking about drinking, be more kind and compassionate to yourself as you're doing this. You know, drinking is a habit, and it's probably something you've done for years or decades even. So it takes a while to unwind it. And that's why I'm so passionate about focusing on practicing not drinking, working on progress, not perfection. I love the saying, focus on the direction, not perfection. And I think it's important just to have these types of groups, programs that just give you a safe place that has no shame, no judgment. A safe place where you can just learn new tools and just start unwinding the habit so that it gets easier and easier for you to drink less or not at all. I would love to have you join the next Alcoholiday. It starts the first of every month. As a podcast listener, you always get 20% off by using the code LOVE, L-O-V-E. And it is hosted on a private platform. It is a HIPAA protected platform. It's really important to me as a nurse just to have privacy and a safe place for you. And what you get is daily emails, lessons, accountability. You get lots and lots of tools to battle cravings. You get a really detailed guidebook, journal to help you out during those 30 days, 31 days, whatever the length of the month is. And then you get downloadable audio meditations, just something to go to when you're feeling a craving. We also do weekly group chats, weekly group support calls led by me and another sober coach twice a week. And then there's also a private chat where you can just share with others, support others. And it's just a great place to practice not drinking. The cost is $89. US dollars, that is. So it's less than $3 a day. Plus, use that LOVE code to get your discount. And just a little background on me, I have been a registered nurse for 20 years. I'm a board certified health coach. I'm a smart recovery certified facilitator, an addiction certified mental health professional. I'm a mindfulness instructor. And then you all know I like to call myself an alcohol-free badass. I've been alcohol-free for almost 4.5 years now. So I would love to see you in the next group. You can sign up at alcoholtippingpoint.com/alcoholiday and join there. I also will link it in my show notes. Wherever you are with your drinking journey, just know that I am rooting for you, that you are not broken, and you can change. Thanks so much. Welcome back to the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. Today on the show is Samantha Lander. She is a functional diagnostics practitioner, certified personal trainer, and holistic lifestyle coach. Samantha's desire to do functional diagnostics came from her own health problems she discovered when she learned she suffered from adrenal fatigue, food sensitivities, pathogens, leaky gut, and lots of hidden stressors. She spent a good portion of her life struggling with weight despite working out and eating a perfect diet and knew it had to be something more. And I am just interested to have Samantha on the show just to have like a different approach to
Okay, what happens after you quit drinking? What is alcohol doing to your gut, to your hormones, to your blood sugar? And then what are some other ways we can heal ourselves after we quit drinking? And Samantha, I know you have kind of a unique story of your experience with drinking, with addiction in general. So, welcome to the show first of all. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. Hello, thank you for having me, of course.
Well, what would you say, just go ahead and introduce yourself, who you are and what you do. I kind of did a little blurb there, but what would you add to that?
Mm. I feel like I do a lot. But anyway, I'm Samantha Lander. I'm a single mom. I have a 7-year-old boy. I'm from St. Louis. I went to University of Michigan, then I moved out to LA, and that's sort of when shit got real hardcore for me. But, I work with women. I have a lot of men. I don't really advertise men. It's strange, but I have a lot of men. But I help people just sort of like regain their health after just years of just feeling like shit and being told over and over by doctors and health practitioners and everyone like, "Oh, everything's fine. Your labs are fine. This is fine. You're just bloated because of this. It's just go get a probiotic from Walgreens. It's in your head. Go on birth control." So it's like this constant like let's throw medication at it solution when I kind of get to the root cause and check out what's going on deeper inside the body and do a whole body approach. I also was a personal trainer. I still kind of am for over 2 decades. I would say I'm slightly retired. I just started a contrast therapy company. So if anyone does not know what that is, it is amazing for people who we have a lot of like just sober curious, sober, health-minded, kind of like people who are really into it. It's really cool, but it's a wood barrel sauna on top of a trailer. We just put on there. And then we have cold plunges. And so we do a breath work session and then you do cold plunge, then you do sauna, then you do cold plunge, then you do sauna. And it's incredible for just mental state, anxiety, depression, inflammation. Yeah, it's badass. So I just started that. So we're driving around town.
Oh, so it's a mobile
It's mobile.
trailer.
It's literally we put the wood barrel sauna on top of a flatbed trailer.
Okay, I got it. I was like, when you first said it, I was like picturing like a trailer, like a trailer park trailer, and then there's like a
Right.
sauna, like something on top of it. So thank you for clarifying
Yeah,
it. So that's
it does look pretty insane. Well, you can go to it's plunge underscore oh god, 3D and you'll see a picture of a video of it. It's crazy. It's
oh,
cool.
that's
It's
cool.
crazy. I once we put that trailer on the thing, I booked like 6 events within like an hour. So
I could see that, yeah, because people keep hearing about cold plunges and the benefits, and so you call this contrast
it's
therapy.
more than just cold plunge. So we try to push away from just saying we're plunging or whatever, but you do a cold plunge with it. Correct.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about that. I feel like we have a lot to talk about.
We end up usually getting two-parters on the podcast.
We should do that, definitely. Well, let's talk about your story, like, your experience with drinking. I know it was more than just drinking, but can you share a little bit about your background with that?
So my kind of using drinking journey, I mean, the first time I drank was in 7th grade. No aha moment for me. I mean, I would say I pretty much was always a blackout drinker. And so I never really liked it. Like it just did not do what I wanted it to do, I guess. Like I wanted to be in control and awake and remember things, but I did like something about it. I just like that it was a mind altering substance, I guess. And so I mean I drank, I definitely abused it a bit in high school and then I stopped and I drank again pretty very heavily at the beginning of college and again was like a super blackout drinker again at that point and I just couldn't control it. Like I never had a lot of control over it unless I was started, like, coupling it with, like, cocaine or something to, like, keep me awake, and I didn't like cocaine, so it just then I don't know, I eventually stopped drinking, and I got heavily eventually got heavily into using drugs, and I found kind of my perfect cocktail for a very, very long time. And that's when I started using GHB, meth, ketamine, ecstasy. Those were kind of my go-tos. And that's when I was out living in LA and I was a DJ out there. So I moved out to LA, and that's, when my drug addiction went full for force. My job fell through when I bought 2 turntables and decided to become a DJ out there. And at the time, I was also senior year of college, I started selling drugs there. So I would bring drugs back or have them shipped from LA to Michigan, and that's when I've kind of always been a serial entrepreneur. So if I see an opportunity to make money, whether it's illegal or not, I'm probably going to do it. It's just always been a hustler, always been really independent, always had a lot of jobs, worked really hard. And so I I was doing that, and that sort of business became a larger business, and that's kind of when I got myself in a lot of trouble I had a SWAT raid at my apartment. I had a LA County case. I had a federal case. I ended up with 2 years or 27 months of federal time. That's a whole long story, but that's kind of my drug journey. And I want to throw that in there. I did get sober I don't know what's going on, in 2006. I went to rehab April 19th, 2006, and that was sort of when I haven't touched any of those drugs at all. So, fast forward to get into my real drinking career, I would say I was sober for 13 years, and I had a baby, and it was you might as well have pulled the rug out from under me. Like, I wasn't working. And as I said, like, that's what I thrive off of. Like, I feed off work and being successful in that area, but I wasn't working at the time. I was in a pretty toxic marriage. My husband, who had 23 years sober, started drinking and using when I was pregnant, which is not, I don't I'm in charge of my own self, right? I have the choice to drink or not to drink, use drugs or not to use drugs, and so does he. He got sober at 16, so I probably would have drank again too. I mean, I don't know. Like I would have. Like if I were him and I got sober at 16, I don't think I would have stayed sober for 23 years. And so and then there was some infidelity. And what my tipping point was I was in a breastfeeding class and I was having a really, really hard time getting, like, breastfeeding, just producing milk. And they said, just have a glass of wine. And I called my mom and dad and kind of ran that by them to see what they would say, right? Just, make sure. Cause I mean, I was a drug addict. I was in the program, like I went to rehab. Like I know that drugs and alcohol are all the same to me. I've always known that. But I stopped working a program. I stopped putting my sobriety as a priority. I thought that I could drink like a normal person, I guess. And I ended up they didn't say anything, so I started drinking. And it was okay for a while, and then it progressed, and my marriage was falling apart, and at one point I said, "It's either, we get a divorce or we get sober, and we try to do this." And he said to me that, "I'll stop right now, but I can't say forever." So to me, that's like, "Well, you're fucking blowing smoke up my ass," you know? Like, you're not gonna stop, and I need to stop. Like, I just see where this is going. And I stopped for a while, and then COVID hit. And I'm, like, the biggest extrovert you'll ever meet. Like, I love people, I thrive off people. I so I started drinking again. I had, like, a really horrible fight with my ex, and I was really struggling with my kid. I had him full time during COVID. I mean, all the things with COVID, and yeah, I started drinking again, and that progressed quickly to just drinking more and more. I was definitely blacking out. It was socially acceptable, so nobody said anything to me. That mommy wine culture, like that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? We drink. We get anxious about our kids and we drink. I was a personal trainer and I trained women and I heard it all day, every day. That's what you do. And I started drinking and my anxiety got worse. And I never, even though I'm a functional like health practitioner and all the things, like I either didn't, the disease was being cunning and baffling, telling me like, oh no, it's not that. Or, it was my hormones, or it was this, or it was that. And I've done extensive research definitely now, but my anxiety, my crippling anxiety that started to happen in the panic attacks is 100% due to my drinking. And it didn't matter if it's one drink or a million drinks. That's what sort of like started to happen with that. But then you drink more to try to relieve the anxiety. And then I'm also an alcoholic, so I drank more because I'm an alcoholic because the disease basically caught up with me. And I just couldn't stop. Like, I couldn't stop. I was going to meetings, I was chairing a meeting, and, yeah, like, I was gonna go into outpatient, and then I was like, "Maybe I need to go to inpatient," and there was no like, every day, you wake up with that guilt and that shame, and it's like, "Fuck, I did it again," and every day at 4 o'clock, it would start, like, again. I promised myself all day, like, "I'm not gonna do this," and yeah, I just couldn't stop. And then December 23rd, there was a day where I I drank and I told the guy that I was dating and he was sober, and basically that I knew that I was going to lose him and I did. And then I lost a friend of mine sort of over it. I like lost human beings. Like, and that was my bottom. My biggest bottom. My last bottom with the drugs and stuff it was a pretty low bottom, but I mean, it wasn't like this. Like, I've never hurt people like that and lost people in my life due to addiction or my behavior with drinking. And I feel like that's a real low for me. And so I think I would say that that's one of my biggest things that kind of woke me up. And I haven't drank since. I haven't had a craving or anything since. And all my
Yeah.
panic attacks, all my anxiety, everything, like within a week went away. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
So
for sharing and your experience and just you hear a lot of people that do quit drinking or get sober in when they're young, and then they pick it up again later in life like, "Well, maybe that was just youth. Maybe as an adult now, as a grown up, I can drink like a normal person." And
yeah,
yeah, you hear
I
it again and again.
yeah, I can't, my ex doesn't drink like an alcoholic, so I don't know, but he smokes a lot of weed. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I, like, don't use the term alcoholic just because it is a spectrum. Like,
yeah,
it is, like, alcohol use disorder, mild, moderate to severe, or some people like, it just looks different for people, right? And some people just give up drinking because it's shit for your health, and it makes you feel like shit too. Like, you don't have to have a drinking problem to give up drinking or change your drinking or anything like that.
I think that's the biggest thing now is like I love that there's this like the younger generation is just like sober curious, and I don't care what they want to coin it or how they even want to market it or whatever they want to do. It's absolutely incredible because it just shows that they value their health.
Mhm.
I mean, there's definitely some things with the younger generation that isn't the same, but, like, they truly, like, they they value their health enough to not just throw all those toxins in it is how I see it. And alcohol is, I mean, if I always use the example is, like, if you think of, like, hand sanitizer, like, what you might you use hand sanitizer to kill bacteria, right, on your hands, but you're gonna go drink it. So, like, what do you think that's doing to your insides and your gut? Because gut health to me is like the most important thing. It's like your second brain. So if your gut's off, everything's going to be thrown off.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is a good segue though. Like, how does alcohol affect the gut?
So, you know, we have, oh gosh, let's see how I'm going to start this. So we could talk about like a lot of people love to use the term leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And that's thrown around now by doctors and people. And it's sort of like this trending umbrella term for like a compromised gut. And basically what happens is you have all these like really healthy like microvilli in your gut. And over time, if you're drinking a lot, stress, medication, infections such as parasites, candida, bacteria overgrowth, something like that, birth control, poor diet, high amounts of sugar are going to break those down. And when those break down, these nice little tight junctions that protect your intestinal wall become inflamed. And when they become inflamed, they pull apart. And when they pull apart, that's when you get a leaky gut. So what's happening is basically all the stuff that you're ingesting is going out into your bloodstream and you get highly symptomatic. So leaky gut is sort of like that umbrella term. So alcohol will cause your gut to be extremely leaky. When your gut is leaky, you're going to get a gamut of symptoms. It depends on everybody's are different. So that's where you start to see the eczema, psoriasis, weight gain, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation. Your hydrochloric acid alone in your gut, which is what digests your food, you start to burn that out by that high acidic alcohol, the alcohol, the high acidity that you have in your guts. Your pH is super off. You see a lot of people with GERD and reflux due to drinking. So it does cause your gut to be incredibly leaky. And then when it's leaky, it's also a great place for parasites and, bacteria and candida and all these little things to live and thrive. So you become an incredibly wonderful host to a lot of infections, which will then wreak havoc in your health overall, you know. And I mean, your neurotransmitters, I always say, are made in the gut too. So your serotonin, your norepinephrine, your dopamine, all those things that your brain balance. And we know that typically when we drink, your brain's probably not super balanced, or maybe you're drinking because you have anxiety, so you went into it not totally on point, or you suffer from depression and maybe that's why you have your one drink a day or whatever you do. But that's gonna in turn make it so the neurotransmitters in your gut are gonna be off, you know? So mental health plays a role a lot.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. We've learned so much more about our gut in the last like 20, 30 years than we ever knew before. I mean, just like that whole I think there's like 80% of your serotonin gets made in your gut, like you were saying. And you wouldn't think that because it's like, oh, that's a neurotransmitter. That's a brain chemical. That it's just so interesting how much they've talked about gut health lately and taking care of your gut and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
it's
have to
important.
go ahead.
No, it's super important, and maybe that's why the younger generation is just hearing it more. And I'm surrounded by that world, so sometimes I don't know if it's because I think it's like everybody's doing it because I'm surrounded by so many healthy people, and that's just kind of my environment. But then I like will go travel and be like, "Oh, no, other people don't know about, like, the sugar-free matcha drinks that are available and the chocolate that doesn't have sugar." So I just, I think it's slowly people are learning, but I think it's because the younger generation is on social media, and there's more of that on social media.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
the ads that are run, there's ads that are blasted through.
Sure, sure. And I will, say like a caveat just coming from the medical world, like some of I don't want to call trend. Well, some of things are trends, right? Is not like generally accepted by the medical world, right? And then there's the alternative world. And I was like, how am I going to balance this podcast? Because I'm a registered nurse, I work with dietitians, nurse practitioners, all that stuff. But then I got started thinking about it and I was like, people I part of my tipping point podcast and platform is to show like there are so many different ways to change your drinking. And there are different ways to heal. And I think people are looking for alternative ways to heal themselves after they quit drinking to get healthy. And like you said, you had said like in your bio that you spent a lot of time like working out, eating healthy and you were still having issues.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, can you kind of share your experience with uncovering your issues and then how you healed yourself, and then maybe carry that over to how what can other people do? What can other people take from that?
Yeah.
If they're, the whole like just eat right and diet,
Right.
exercise, that's all you need to do.
Right. Well, and I would say, like, I was a really sick kid. Like, I wasn't sick like I had a disease that was diagnosed. Like, I just always had stomach problems, and I had horrible allergies, and I had chronic sinus infections, and I was on a lot of antibiotics. So it's not all because of like my using that caused my health to be awry. I was undiagnosed PCOS like my whole life and just struggled with my, like, I was chronic fatigue. And what happened was, when I was a personal trainer, I was eating like perfect, and I had chronic diarrhea. I started to get my periods every 2 weeks. I was gaining weight, and I was working out. I couldn't have worked out anymore. I would do 2 hours of boxing. I would lift weights. But then I just kept doing more and eating less, because that's what Shape Magazine and that's what Old School Food Pyramid and all that stuff tells us to do, right? Just cut calories and work out more and burn more. But I was like, my hormones were a shit show. Like, and nobody ever said, well, maybe it's your gut health, maybe it's your hormones, until somebody one day. And this is when I started getting like a really holistic, like, living, like, we're moving toxins from my home, and like, I didn't put one chemical into my body, and you couldn't pay me to. And I had been to every doctor and fired by like three, and told that you just need like a diuretic, you need to go on birth control, you need antidepressants. Like, I can't tell you how many scripts I've gotten, like, just written that are like, that's not even why I came here. Like, an antidepressant, like, I'm trying to tell you I'm estrogen dominant and you're not listening. Like, I need something to fix that. And it's not birth control. um and, like, no. So I ran a food sensitivity test, and that was the first test I ran, and I had so it was probably still, and I run over 2,000 of these labs at this point, and it was probably one of the worst ones I've ever seen. And within that first week, I felt a little bit of hope that I could feel like a human again. I mean, I was to the point where I would just cry every night, like, every night, just cry. I'd lay on my floor and cry. I didn't know what to do. Like, I did not know what to do. It was a darker place than probably when I was, like, using drugs, because I was doing all the right shit, like, and nothing was changing. And that just opened up doors for me. And so then from there, I run a hormone panel, and then I did a GI panel. I had a ton of parasites. I was super estrogen dominant. I got on a supplement protocol that was completely tailored to me. I removed all the food sensitivities, which then also helped me with like my binge eating at night, and it wasn't like I ate sugar. I wasn't like an addict, like pounding down sugar, because I just got sober. It was more like I just would binge on, like, healthy food, but I couldn't stop. It was the strangest thing. But the second I got rid of my inflammatory foods, that stopped. And I realized, like, okay, there's so much more than working out more and eating less. And
Mm.
I that's when I started just doing, like, certifications and trainings and everything to kinda do what I do now. Because I saw it in my clients, like, my personal training clients. I'd be like, "You're lying on your food log." But they weren't. So it's just opened up doors for me. And once I healed my gut, and I mean, I was like tiny. Like, I mean, I just like shrunk. I didn't even have to worry about what I ate. I ate whatever I want. Like, I ate normal for the first time ever. Like, I didn't have to stress about all that. And that's always my goal with my clients, is to heal your gut and get you to the point where, like, if you want to go have a piece of cake, you can have it, but you're not going to be double over in pain and hate yourself and regret it and crave sugar. I mean, it takes work to get there for sure. But I do use like specialty lab testing to kind of get to the root cause of all that.
Yeah, and I know some of the food sensitivity tests are kinda
Oh yeah, some are bullshit.
controversial.
Oh yeah. I double blind all my labs. I'm like psycho about it. I'm really picky, but yeah, there are some, like, I think you can buy them on Groupon now.
A
You
food
can.
sensitivity
Oh, yeah.
test?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, can you talk about what it is and, what it showed, like, for you, and then how you adjusted your diet after that?
So, basically, when I run a food sensitivity test on someone, that goes into their full, like, nutrition plan, but it tests for 175 different foods, and then it just kind of tells you the level of reactivity. I like the one that I use because it basically has a green, yellow, and a red. Some of them have like green, a little green, yellow, kind of yellow, 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 yeah, more yellow, kind of red, and you have no idea like what you're supposed to take out or not. And from there, we pull out all those reactive inflammatory foods. So it just kind of gives your body an opportunity to calm down and not have so much inflammation. But it's always good to sort of check out, if there's a gut infection in there, because it's typically the infection can cause the gut to become incredibly leaky. And then you get food sensitivities. I mean, everybody has them, but they get worse. Your symptoms get worse. So we remove them and we put you on, I put clients or myself, I put on a 4-day rotation diet. So I started rotating my foods a lot more because what happens over time is you start to create your own intolerance to the foods that you eat every day. So that repetition, you basically become intolerant. It doesn't mean it's forever, but it does mean that like for a period of time you can remove it and then add it back in. So we do the 4 rotation diet. So, like, I always see on my second lab that I would run with someone, there's a lot less of them. It goes from, like, 20 or more to, like, 7 to 10 just by rotating your foods. So, like, that's just if someone wants a takeaway is, like, start rotating your foods more, don't eat the same thing every day. Um, so so that's where I get and then I yeah, and then I do a lot of work on, like, stabilizing your blood sugar with the nutrition plan and stuff like that. Did I answer your question?
Well, I was just curious about, like, so it's a blood
So
test,
it's a blood test, yeah.
and then what were your food sensitivities?
Okay. I had my first one, let's see, God, it was so long
And
ago,
then it
but I
sounds like
remember it
they
was
change, like,
oh, yeah, it
just
changes.
because you're sensitive to them now, if you kinda take a break or rotate out, you can eat them later, is
Yes, you can add them back,
okay,
actually.
got it,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So, I had spinach, almonds, carrots. I know I had that. I had coffee on there on the first one, soy, corn, cow's milk. I'm trying to think of ones that just always come up on mine. I know sugar was on there. Rice was on my first one, and it was, like, literally everything I was eating, but I would always have, like, carrots and almonds and, like, a spinach salad for dinner or something like that with some sort of, protein on top, and then I would, like, binge on carrots later and almond butter because I would have those inflammatory foods, and what it does is what I always tell people who are in recovery or addicts or have that a little bit of that ism, that addictive personality is what happens when you eat it, an inflammatory food, you get the same feel good feeling that you get when you have a drug or a drink or, a sugar, stuff like that. So it releases that dopamine, that serotonin, and all those like the, uh, you know, those feel good, hormones and stuff and neurotransmitters in your gut. So then you want more because it feels good to eat them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just so interesting, like, that your list had healthy foods.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That people are like, "Well, I eat clean." I'm like, "That doesn't matter." Like, those clean foods are probably what are causing your bloating and your gas and, you know, could be some of the inability to lose weight. So, yeah.
So what's the 4 on, 4 off
Oh,
you were
so
talking about?
I have the 4-day rotation.
Yeah.
So, basically well, really, it's like, just don't eat the same thing every day. So, if you
Okay.
have, like, on Monday like, Sunday night, you have chicken breasts and whatever vegetables, and you make a bunch of it, and you have it all the next day. So, you have that for a full 24 hours. Try not to eat that for another 4 days. So, the next day, you can have salmon and a different vegetable. The next day, you can have turkey burgers and a different vegetable. I know you probably eat, like, oatmeal and eggs every day. Same thing.
No, I'm actually you know what it reminds me of in a different way, but I wonder if it's similar like crop rotations because they
Seas
yeah, because they rotate crops because 'cause
They
they're
do.
taking out nutrients from the soil, so they need a different kind of crop. I don't know why I went to
I don't eat it
agriculture.
like that, but if you do eat by the season, that helps. So, like,
Mm.
you have your squashes in the fall, and then you have your fruits in the summer, But now everything's always available at all times because of, you know, farmers growing stuff and within the green the inside the farms and
Yeah. Interesting.
we don't have a lot of work. Go ahead.
We don't have a lot of what?
I was just saying, like, it's like if you go by what the organic foods and when they're fresh, would
Mm.
probably be the best way to sort of determine that. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, what if we go back to just people that are like, okay, I've been drinking a lot. I know it's bad for my gut. Now I'm taking a break or I'm done. Like, what are some things we can do to heal ourselves? Just kind of general things where maybe you're not going to do the blood test, but you're like, okay, what are just some go-to?
oh, so I'm a big test don't guess like kind of person. So
Oh, okay.
here's my thing. So I have never had a GI panel come back with a new client completely clean. And what I mean by GI, like running a gut test. So testing for parasites or H. pylori or worms or any of that. I've never had one come back clean. So in my opinion, why go and heal the gut before you try to remove all the infections? But this is also not saying you should run out to Whole Foods and go buy a parasite cleanse because a lot of times you're not healthy enough, like your immune system and your body and your hormones are not healthy enough for you to just start detoxing from a parasite protocol because it's really stressful. You're killing something in your body. And people underestimate how stressful that is on the body. So they end up that's why you see these posts like I'm doing a parasite cleanse. I'm so sick. It's because their body wasn't ready for it. Like if your liver and your kidneys and your gallbladder aren't working well, then you probably shouldn't just jump on something like that. However, if you want to work on healing the gut, that's just my little disclaimer. But if you do, bone broth is amazing. I think it's a great tool. The L-glutamine is a good one, like the powder supplement. Collagen is great. There's a lot of supplements. I use one called GI Revive by Design for Health that I think is a great one to heal the gut. Like a Great Lakes gelatin is a great like collagen powder you can do. You can put it in your coffee. You can put it in anything. It heals the gut. So those are some things. Aloe is a good one.
Yeah, and so your tests
Probiotics.
don't guess, so it's hard to recommend foods because some of those foods.
Oh, for gut healing foods, yeah, I would say, you wanna remove your inflammatory foods, but, obviously, those were more like those are all, like, the kind of the gut healing stuff that I do, like the collagen, the L-glutamine, the bone broth. But as far as, like, just foods, cabbage juice is a good one for that. Obviously eating a whole foods diet. So if you can handle dairy, anything that has high probiotic and good bacteria on it is great for you to be eating to help repopulate that. Take a good probiotic. Berries are great antioxidants. The leafy greens are great. High fiber will help pull out any excess, toxins in your body and can help with like estrogen dominance if you're high in estrogen. Organic carrot, not peeled, raw is great. 1 or 2 of those a day for pulling out. It's just really high in fiber. It binds a lot of bad bacteria, can help pull that out. It helps with estrogen too. I work with so many females, so it's a lot of it's like we gotta work on the hormones before we get to the gut. But, stay away from sugar, find sugar alternatives. Corn is super inflammatory for the gut. Grains are super inflammatory for the gut. So if you buy something, just when I say Whole Foods, I used to when people say just eat Whole Foods, I used to always think, okay, I'll go to Whole Foods, but like, what do I eat? Like, I don't get it. But what I'm saying is like the less amount of ingredients in your food, the better. So a whole food would be like a piece of broccoli because it's just broccoli. Instead of buying a steamed broccoli pouch from the store that has some sort of spice with soy and maltodextrin and sugar, and then maybe it has like a cheese sauce or whatever. So that would not be considered a whole food.
Yeah, yeah, just closest to the earth, whatever is closest to the ground, the earth.
Yeah.
What about people who, like, during dry July or whatever, or when you're first quitting and you do have those sugar cravings, what's some of your advice for that?
Bad. So you never want to eat a carbohydrate alone. So that's a big one. So whenever you're having a piece of fruit, a potato, a sweet potato, rice, anything like that, you always need to have a protein with it. And I would always recommend eating the protein first. So it's sort of a buffer for that blood sugar. And so an example is if I have a piece of cheese before I have an apple. Okay, that's how you're gonna buffer that, but always have a protein with your carb. That's gonna help regulate your blood sugar, it's gonna help with your mood, it's gonna help with cravings, it can help with weight loss, and then what else? Stay away from, you could eat every 4 hours as long as you aren't one of those that never goes to the bathroom. So I think it's important to try to eat every 4 hours, eat breakfast, eat within 30 minutes of waking up, stop trying to starve yourself all day and eat less, and then you're just gonna binge at night. So you need to eat like an upside down pyramid, if anything, biggest meal in the morning. And if you're getting a lot of cravings before bed or you're not sleeping well, I would have protein. So or fat. You could even do like a scoop of coconut oil before bed, or you could do some almond butter, some cashew butter, make sure there's no sugar in it. Most peanut butter is roasted, and so I would try to get some sort of raw nut butter just because when you roast the nuts, the fat becomes rancid in it. So you wanna have really good healthy fats coming in. So just high fat and protein before bed if your sleep is off since you stopped drinking or you're just craving, the sugar at night, which you get a lot of. But that's also you gotta eat breakfast and lunch. So
Mm,
you're gonna have a lot of
yeah.
sugar cravings and you're gonna binge if you don't eat all day or if you eat
Yeah.
minimum. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And would you say what would you say, like, your tips are for someone with drinking cravings? I feel like they're so similar, the sugar cravings and the drinking cravings, like, what's your take on that?
For the drinking cravings, I would say also, like, make sure you've reintroduced, like, the B vitamins, like, all magnesium, zinc, take a really good multivitamin because you are pretty depleted of all those due to your drinking a lot of times. Even if it's 1 drink, it's gonna do it. 1 drink a week or 2 will definitely have a major impact on your hormones and your metabolic health and, like, you'll get nutrient deficiencies. And your body can't absorb your nutrients in general, when you're drinking and your gut's leaky. So, drinking cravings, well, you're asking someone in the program. So for me, I always say, like, you can call someone, go to a meeting, things like that, if you're in that kind of situation. But, again, I would say I drink some bone broth, have some protein, have some fat, and then drink water is a big one. Electrolytes. A lot of us get cravings and we just need water. And we probably just need you can even put a pinch of like really good like sea salt in there. Or I like Redmond's electrolytes. I have a lot of people who are just, quitting drinking. I'll put some of the Redmond's electrolytes in there and they'll drink that and that's all they need. Like they were just dehydrated. Because you're craving that salt and that sugar and things like that. It's just your body re-regulating. And some of it's habitual. You're used to having a drink at that time. So I would say go for a walk or find something to do at that one time where you feel like you get the cravings. Make sure you've eaten and all those things. But if you're getting those cravings, go take your dog for a walk, go out, to a coffee shop for an hour and see what happens. But
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Well, let's talk about that contrast therapy then. So,
right.
what tell us about that. What's good about it? Like, what are the health benefits? Just kind of share about that.
So I feel like the list like, as I research more and more on this, like, because 'cause I'm creating content for our social, it's like the list is endless. So my business partner, for him, I'll tell you a little bit about his story, is he's in recovery, but he quit drinking, but he was put on a ton of, like, medications, like anti-anxiety and antidepressants and all this stuff, and he wanted off them, and I hear this story actually a lot, and he wanted off them, so he started to do breath work and realized, like, he can breathe through a lot of these things, like, he's trained himself where makes sure he practices breath work and can get himself from a sympathetic state, which is when you're super stressed out. I always say people can't remember it. Sympathetic is with an S, so think about stress. And parasympathetic is when you're calm and you're like paralyzed and calm. So he wanted to be able to get, and this is our goal with the people coming in, is like we want to show them and help train them to become highly sympathetic people into very parasympathetic people when they need to. And he started doing that, and he then started cold plunging. And the combination of the two, he got off all his medication, and he's like thriving, you know, no anxiety, no depression, like nothing. And it happened fairly quickly. And for me, I started to run events with another company where I would do the breath work and we do the cold plunge. And I was just like, well, I want to just do this. I want to have events for my clients and stuff. And let's see what happens. And then I saw the benefits of it. And for me personally, like the breath work, I am always stressed out. And so for me, it's still hard, like in the time of stress, to get myself to just stop and take a breath. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. But I started to feel the benefit every time I did it. I was like, it was like a release of like 8,000 pounds of emotional like baggage. And the cold plunge, I could tell just the inflammation. And I liked having the community with me doing it. So I would bring a group of people together, nobody knew each other, and I got to see, like, it was like this, like, we became like a tribe by the end, like, cheering people on, and everybody was just, like, high-fiving, and, oh my god, you just don't see that shit, right? I don't know, I just don't see that happen a lot in my life and in society anymore, and it was like summer camp. And that's where I was like, I get addicted to anything, right? And I was like, this is fucking dope. And so I decided to open a company. And so now I do a lot of cold plunges. And for me, it's like for my anxiety, it helps me self-regulate so fast. It helps with inflammation. So anyone having a lot of joint pain and inflammation in the body, it is a major player in that. But being able to learn to breathe through that highly stressful state in the cold plunge is a game changer. And eventually you get in and it's nothing, it's a huge reset. And so I just wanted to be able to have that to offer to like the community in which I live, you know? I don't know.
But now you're pairing it with the heat though. Is
Yes.
that right?
Oh,
So
yes, we
what
do heat too, yes. So it's going from that cold to the hot, the cold to the hot. So it just resets your body and helps you, go from parasympathetic to sympathetic. So it's just that stress. So going more in the sauna is gonna calm you down a little bit more. Um, but yeah, it's the hot and cold that makes it the contrast. But yeah,
okay.
same benefits, same healing benefits for anxiety, depression, trauma, a lot of PTSD and trauma clients come in. So people struggling with that come in and do it. Um, kind of like the list is endless for this one.
I know it is interesting. So it helps like in the short term and
It's
you're
a cumulative effect. So the more you do it, the better
Mhm.
for your
And
body.
when you're talking about breath work, because I did a breath work session, an intense breath work session. I thought it was gonna be like the relaxing breath work, but it was like hyperventilating. People were having weird experiences. I was like, I didn't know this was breath work. So
Right. It is.
is that what breath work you're talking about?
We do 15 minutes of it and people come out and are like, I feel like I was just tripping.
So what's going on there? What's happening
So
with
it's just how much CO2 you're getting in your body and taking out. So when you get that much oxygen in your body, you're not used to having it. So you're getting all that oxygen in your blood. It starts to get the pins and needles and all that stuff. Yeah. Your body's just not used to it, but it's really good for your body to get it. I'm not a super pro in it. You should have my breathwork coach on. He has a story too.
Okay.
He's in recovery. He would love him. He's great. But
Yeah,
he
I just
that more. He's my breathwork coach. I
uh,
just do the sessions. I'm actually in the middle of the course. So he is the one that will be able to he could fine tune all of that for you. This is not I can talk about gut and hormones and food and nutrition all day long.
okay, okay. Yeah, I find it fascinating, and the nurse in me is like, Oh my gosh, I hope everyone's okay. People are
Right.
gonna hyperventilate. We're gonna and same with the cold plunge too. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, someone's gonna have a heart attack." Like, I'm just go into worry
Try not to have
mode.
pacemakers in there, and then we definitely have a waiver.
Oh, right, because there is some concern there. Okay. What are some other things you would share with people who are looking for a different approach, either to change their drinking or to heal their bodies? Like, what else would you say to that?
I think that one thing that I always say, like, I think what there's a time and a place for Western medicine, but, don't underestimate the power of that one drink. It can cause a ton of blood sugar issues, a lot of gut and hormone issues. For the women out there, your hormones, if you're struggling with that, definitely I would always say quit drinking and see what happens. But I just it's important for people to learn to take a whole body approach. So it's never just one thing that's creating your symptom. And symptoms are your body's way of telling you something, and I say listen to those and start there and always try to do more like root cause. Like, so the doctor may give you, you know, birth control to help with your PMS, right? But why are you getting PMS? Is it just a hormone balance that you could fix and some poor gut health? So why don't we just take some herbal supplements and fix the gut and heal it and try to balance it that way than just getting on a medication, which really doesn't fix the problem. And I think that's the thinking. Like, I think when you have a UTI, go get antibiotics, right? If there's some supplements you can take, but typically if you have a UTI, I would say, let's get you on antibiotics. We can work on the gut after. But, if you're just having all these underlying symptoms, joint pain is a big one that I see is just severe joint pain where, oh, I have RA and I'm only 35. I don't know. They say I have RA or rheumatoid arthritis.
Yep.
So I don't know. And I'm like, you don't. Like, I bet you don't. Let's talk about your diet. Let's start there. So I always start with nutrition and then I go to like the hormones and adrenals and the gut health. But let's work on your nutrition and remove the inflammatory foods. And there's people who will be like, listen, I'll give you your money back. Just run this food
Mm.
sensitivity test, and they'll run it, and they're off. It's fine. It all goes away. It's just so much inflammation. So their gut is super leaky. They're eating a lot of inflammatory foods. It's going through the gut, intestinal wall, into the bloodstream, and one of the things they're getting is joint pain and inflammation in the joints and water retention. And that water retention, that swelling, is going to hurt your joints. And so right there, it's like, would you rather take a bunch of medicine? Because with RA, you're gonna be on probably 2, and continue to eat shit, that's fine, but it doesn't really give you a solution. So or you could just clean up your diet and, like, probably cure your gut, and then you're good, you know?
Mm.
These are just the ways to think about things that I think are important approaches to your health. I think someone who just quits drinking is definitely get your nutrition in line, and a lot of people don't lose weight when they quit drinking. And they think that's gonna be a big thing that's gonna happen, and they don't, is because they're either been malnourished and they're probably absorbing nutrients, and maybe they're actually gaining some muscle now, or they need them. They need that fat, and they're gaining a little bit of weight, but their blood sugar is just so shot, or they replace it with sugar, and they eat a lot of carbs, and think, "Oh, well, I'm not drinking, I can eat this." Well, no, probably can't just because 'cause you're not drinking. I know when I quit drinking, I put on weight for sure, but I put on muscle. Like, I put on a lot of muscle fast. So, those are some things is definitely start to work on that nutrition. Movement is important. Mental health is obviously important. Did that cover some things?
Yeah, yeah, I really appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing and offering a different approach and I like what you said. There's definitely a time and place for Western medicine. And I know that a lot of people do get frustrated with Western medicine. I'm kind of going through my own like investigation of my migraines right now, and it's just like throwing other meds at it. And yeah, so I appreciate that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm in it again. Like I struggled with the whole Western medicine thing for a while, but I'm in it again. I'm dealing with like I just had an ENT try to put me. He wrote me a script for nerve pain management, nerve blockers, pain management, an antidepressant when I went in to try to tell him about some stuff going on with, like, I've had a lot of mouth surgeries and things, and I have a cyst in my sinus. I said, "Well, I think I wanna get it removed because I think that's why I keep getting sick. It's like I can't drain." And he wrote the scripts and he said, "I'm not gonna remove it," and then told me that he didn't even look at the CT as I was walking out.
Yeah, and you hear stuff like that.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would say treat it like Bumble with your practitioners, your trainers, your breathwork coaches. There's good ones, there's bad ones, and find one that works for you. And, your ultimate goal is like heal the body. And I always tell people, even though I have been a full blown drug addict, alcoholic, and you can heal your body. You can heal your gut and you can heal your body. If I can do it, you can do it, and just don't give up your health. I mean, it's a vessel, and I think a good thing to say is you wanna get healthy to lose weight, not lose weight to get healthy, and I think weight loss
Oh,
is always a very big thing when people come in, and I'm like, "Okay, well, we can get there, but let's just get you healthy, and then it'll just happen, and it won't be this running your head against the wall, expecting it to change by eating less and starving yourself." Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry about your
yeah.
migraines. You should run a food sensitivity test.
I gotta tell you, because I have been skeptical, but now I'm, like,
I've had people we've got
interested.
yeah,
Yeah.
between that and between the food and hormones, like a really comprehensive hormone panel could probably really help. But
Right, and as long as it's not hurting, as long as you're, like, doing no harm, I think that's kinda like the caveat of, like, some concerns about supplements, like, as long as it's doing no harm. If sound baths are your thing, or if I don't know, there's all these kinda woo stuff,
I
like, but
I have more weird shit in my house the other day. Someone's like, "What are you doing to your feet?" I'm like, "It's an ionic foot bath." I'm like, "I have no idea if it actually does anything, but I'm
well,
doing it."
I exactly, like, even if it's not doing anything, even if you're taking a placebo pill not intentionally, right? Like, if it's doing no harm, that is worth investigating, and we're worth healing ourselves for
I agree.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Well,
podcast and sharing
for
your
having me.
experience. Yeah. How can people find you?
I am all over social media, but Instagram, it's CFit Living, so it's SEEFIT, and then living, and then the contrast therapy company. I might as well. But we're in St. Louis, but it's plunge underscore 3D, and then I'm Samantha Lander on you know Facebook, and then if you want to put the link up, I do a free clarity call, so I do a one-on-one clarity call with whoever wants to, and they can pop on, and I can talk to them if they don't pay anything. We talk about your health. We do a big, 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 big health history and talk about all the things, and I tell you what I think I can do, or if I can help you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well,
No,
thank you so much.
you're
Appreciate you.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. Please share and review the show so you can help other people too. I want you to know I'm always here for you, so please reach out and talk to me on Instagram at Alcohol Tipping Point, and check out my website, alcoholtippingpoint.com, for free resources and help. No matter where you are on your drinking journey, I want to encourage you to just keep practicing, keep going. I promise you are not alone and you are worth it. Every day you practice not drinking is a day you can learn from. I hope you can use these tips we talked about for the rest of your week, and until then, talk to you next time.